guys! Today I'm going to be making some coffee cake because I got a special request from my physical therapy team for some. I've made this recipe once before and hopefully this time I can master it. Alright, let's get cooking!
To start off, the ingredients we'll need will be 2 2/3 cups of flour, 4 eggs, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, a half a cup of brown sugar, 1 1/3 cups of sour cream, 4 teaspoons of instant espresso powder, 4 teaspoons of vanilla extract, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, a half a teaspoon of salt, 2 cups of granulated sugar, and finally 10 tablespoons of melted butter. The first step in making our cake will be to make the crumble. The crumble calls for the cinnamon, brown sugar, and 2 teaspoons of espresso powder. This crumble is going to be used as a topping and also in layers of the cake. It's up to you if you want to do the layers or the topping or both. I'm going to do both, but if you only want to do the topping, then you can cut this crumble recipe in half. You're going to use a whisk or gloved hands to mix this around, and then you'll set it aside for later. Next, we're going to move on to our batter. For this, we're going to start with our wet ingredients, meaning we're going to be using our melted butter and granulated sugar first. We're going to beat these two together until combined. I'm personally using a stand mixer. You can also use a hand mixer, or you can mix this by hand, whatever you prefer or whatever you have available to you. Next, we'll add in our eggs. Since we have 4 eggs in total, we're gonna go 2 eggs at a time, just so that they get incorporated nice and evenly, and to make sure that consistency stays right during the cake. It also helps out that I'm using a stand mixer in this process because doing it by hand or using a hand mixer is always so draining in my opinion. But of course, whatever you have, whatever you can do. Next, in our wet ingredients will be sour cream. I know it might sound a bit strange, but sour cream actually helps with moisturizing all the different moisture in the cake to make sure it's not dry. It helps out with bringing out the flavor, specifically the sweetness of the cake. And it also helps out with making it nice and light and fluffy, which is why we use in banana bread. Next, we'll be using vanilla extract and adding that in as our mixer goes. And as we mix, we'll also be adding our baking soda and salt. And that will conclude all of our wet ingredients. On to the dry ingredients. This means that we're going to add in our flour and espresso powder. I like to add in the flour a 1/4 cup at a time since there's so much, and that way we can slowly but surely get it introduced into the batter. That's how I like to do it. I also want to make sure that between each addition, we got to make sure that we scrape down the sides of the bowl, because we don't want anything to be left over and to be accidentally left in the batter as raw. Then we'll be adding our final 2 teaspoons of espresso powder. It can be anywhere between 2 to 4 teaspoons, depending on how much you like. I personally am not the biggest fan of coffee, which is why I use 2 teaspoons, but it's all up to you. It's gonna be your cake. And that is the final thing with our batter. Next, we're gonna move on to assembly. For assembly, you'll see that I have to layer the batter and the crumble because I love doing the layers. I pour the batter right here into a well-greased pan, 999-inch pan, square, I prefer that. And I have a piece of parchment at the bottom if you notice, because it's always the easiest and bestest way to pop out the cake when it's done baking. Parchment paper always makes it so much easier. And really, when making this cake, you can add in whatever nuts you want. The original recipe calls for chopped walnuts, 3 to 6 tablespoons of it, in the crumble. And you can add that if you like. I personally don't like nuts, so that's why I didn't add it. But you can add in chopped walnuts, pecans, almonds, whatever floats your boat. So you'll see me here. I finally spread out all of the first layer of the batter, and then I'm going to sprinkle on my desired amount of crumble. And after this, we're going to keep on layering and adding more and more crumble until you've either used up all of your crumble or batter, or you get the desired amount of layers that you want. You'll see here that I'm doing several layers because I love the crumble. It tastes amazing in my opinion. especially with the cake, and it looks so cool when you cut it in half. And that's why I love doing all these different layers. It always plays a big part in presentation, in my opinion. And here you'll see me crumbling on the final batch of crumble on the very tippity top as our topping on this cake. Now we're gonna pop this cake into the oven at 350 degrees for 30 minutes. Mine took about 40 minutes because my oven is the hottest. Every oven is different.
Alright, so this is the finished product. I hope you guys like watching the video. Hopefully my physical therapist team will like this coffee cake that I made. And remember, if you ever want to bake this for yourself, it's very low sugar, a nice light sweet treat for you guys. Always your option if you want to add the crumble or not. Enjoy!